Hey y'all, it's future Rebecca here. I just recorded this entire episode and then I jumped on a therapy session right after, and much was talked about, much was learned, and this is definitely going to have a part two to it. So, this week's episode will serve as Forgiveness as an Inside Job Part One. And next Wednesday, there will be a part two posted. And I'm really excited to get into some of the stuff that was discussed on my therapy session because, wow, the clarity that is coming your way, I'm excited. I'm excited. So, I just want to let you know that enjoy this episode, soak every bit of it up, and I can't wait to touch base with you next week. Hello. Hi, how are you? I hope you're having a beautiful day. There is a lot of sunshine on my face at this moment because I'm sitting in front of a window in my bedroom because this is my second time at this recording. Actually, probably my third time now, and a little discouraged, but it's okay. It's okay. I was actually posting about it on my Instagram story yesterday, and like people were so sweet when I was just like kind of crashing out, like, when you sit down and you have all of this energy to record an episode and everything just goes wrong and you just can't get your thoughts together. And I think I just maybe needed to blow off some steam and get a good night's rest and then come on back here for take however many, I don't know. Also, in my room because I just needed a different location. And there's actually active construction going on outside, and it is so loud. And I really hope that this doesn't pick it up. And if it doesn't pick it up, then Riverside, you should sponsor me. Okay, you should sponsor me because there's a lot of fucking noise going on out there right now. It's definitely gentrification in real time, and it's actually really sad. But they are literally tearing down the building next door and gonna put a skyscraper there. So how lovely is that? Okay, so hello, hi, my name is Rebecca. This is the Me and You podcast. I'm so grateful that you are here with me right now. I honestly, the sun is so bright on my face that the I can't even see the image in front of me. So hopefully, we're gonna thug it out. We're gonna see how this goes. But thank you for joining me. This is a safe place on the internet for all things personal evolution, self-reflection, compassion, and community. Like I've said a million times before, and I will say until I'm blue in the face and deep in the ground, but the internet can be a safe space so long as we will it. And I am willing the hell out of it. So thank you for being in my space right now. And I'm so grateful you're here. We're just sitting down, two people chatting about the fate of the world, the fate of our hearts, and how those are deeply connected. So, thank you for being with me. Without further ado, this episode is Forgiveness as an Inside Job, which is beyond ironic because I literally sat down to record it yesterday and I just couldn't. I did like multiple takes and I just couldn't get my thoughts together. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not in a place to forgive, which is so ironic because I'm recording an episode about forgiveness. And I think I was hoping that I was going to be able to come to this episode like so healed. Like, yeah, this is what I did to forgive. And this is how I got past the hard things. But it actually turns out that no, I'm definitely in the thick of this and I'm going to have to go through it with you. So thank you for being here with me. Forgiveness as an inside job, I think, is a beautiful phrase that perfectly summarizes the meaning of forgiveness. And I think that so many times in my life I've mulled over forgiveness and I've mulled over this idea of closure too, because I know that like if somebody hurt you, there's this feeling of like I need to communicate with them, I need to get closure. But for me personally, I kind of feel like closure is a myth. Closure for other people providing it for you is like it just feels so like, really? Like, that's the only way for me to get closure, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there's other ways for you to provide yourself closure, and I think the ultimate closure does come from within yourself. So, I wanna kinda get into that today and kind of how forgiveness is within your power and it's not in anybody else's. And I want to start by saying that forgiveness is not a process to be rushed, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to do yesterday when I was recording this and my original thoughts on this episode of like coming to it from a healed place, but that is simply not the case. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to continue to feel my feelings until I can't feel them anymore. You know, I was actually on the phone with my parents after the failed recording attempts yesterday. I promise I'll stop mentioning it now, but I was on the phone with them and my parents are the best. They're my rock solids. I love them so much. And I was talking to them about how I'm just like having a hard time with some things and da da da. And I was telling my dad, I feel so ridiculous for still being upset about certain things. And he was saying, like, you just have to feel your feelings until you can't feel them anymore. And I was like, Terrence Moore, I love you. You are so right. You're so right. So I was also talking to one of my friends the other night about forgiveness and about how it's an inside job. And she was saying that forgiveness as an inside job is like, it's like suturing your own wound. It's like you are in the power of healing what is wrong and what is making you feel heavy. And like I just loved that idea of like this is so in your power, you know, because I think forgiveness in the past for me was like I needed to wait for somebody to be sorry, and then I would get so in my head, you know, this person isn't even sorry, they don't even know how much they hurt me, and I can't forgive them, and if I forgive then I forget, and I don't want to forget. And I think a lack of forgiveness sometimes feels like a way to hold on to hurt or your narrative or a person. So I had somebody in my life a few years ago, and I was head over heels in love with this person. And he was not as into me, and but he was not honest about that. The ending of the relationship was really rough. He ended up breaking up with me over text, over a really long text. And it was just such a slap in the face because it's like, dude, like you sat in my car and like cried for me to like hold on to you and like give you time to think and da da da, and then I did, and then you turn around and just sent me like a fucking essay of you like, you know, backing out of my life completely. Like it was literally heartbreaking. It was gutting. And for so long I felt like I couldn't forgive him because I was scared. I think deep down that if I forgave him, then the last bit of his energy that I had would be gone. And I feel like sometimes we hold out on forgiving because we don't want to let go of this version of the past and this version of a person that we had. Like when you zoom out of forgiveness, and forgiveness is not absolving somebody. It's not like, oh, okay, well, you know, yeah, they did a bad thing, but forgive and forget, move on. Like, that's not forgiveness to me. Forgiveness is realizing that somebody is the product of their own experiences, their relationships, their childhood, and that what they do is so divinely and intrinsically about them and not about you. And how they conduct themselves with you is about them and it's about their experiences. And it kind of decenters you as the main character and realizes that you're just another person moving through their life as a conduit of lesson for them. And that was very freeing when I was able to see that he was the product of his circumstances and this was all he knew. And avoidance or running away from his feelings or you know, kind of like backing out is what he's experienced and what he knows, and that is the way that he copes. And it doesn't have to do with me and my worth and my value. It's just, you know, this is how he is. And thank goodness he showed me his true colors so that I don't have to repaint him and I know exactly what I'm dealing with and I can lovingly walk away from that. And on this idea of closure, we didn't speak for months. I never responded to the text because it caused me so much emotional turmoil. And then finally I was like, okay, I'm not responding to this. I don't need to respond to this. And then months later, I was still mulling it over. I was having crash outs and breakdowns. And then finally, I was like, okay, I think I need to talk to this person and just like say my piece. And truthfully, even now, that conversation went even worse than the messages. Like the conversation was like, actually, I think I just viewed you as a friend the whole time. And like, I never even loved you. And it's like, woof, woo, that is hard to hear. Like, guys, when I tell you I was not okay, when I tell you I don't even remember what I said to him, I don't even remember what I said. Fate only knows. But I thought for so long that my peace would be on the other side of that conversation. And I think there was peace in the sense that I spoke up for myself. But there was nothing that he could have said on that call that would have made everything okay. And I think I just wanted that. And that's what I mean when I talk about this idea of closure. Like, it's in your power. Going back in time, I'm like, I didn't need that at all. I didn't need a second more of his energy or his time. I was holding on to it because I couldn't let go, you know? And I also think that forgiveness gives way for your system to understand change and to accept change. And what I mean by that is like changed behavior, a change in your perspective, and a change that somebody is more than just what they do to you, like I said. And like change is a fundamental part of this life. And I was talking to my little sister about this the other day about how in this world, and also I was watching Ferngully the other day, first time I've ever seen that movie. And they also talk about this in the movie, which just felt so like synchronistic. But like in this world, massive destruction and massive creation live side by side. We see this with natural disasters. We see this with wars, and we see this with human conflict. We see this amongst animals. We see this everywhere, that like all things perceived come and go. And just like there is beautiful wildflower fields, and there are sunsets and sunrises, and there are bubbles and chimes, and so many wonderful little magical things, there's dragonflies on this earth. There are mushrooms that can make you see crazy things, but um, there's also massive destruction that is like just the way of this world. And I think the best thing that we can do is coming back into ourselves and realizing, like, oh, that's just the way. If that's the way, that's not depressing. It's just an understanding. I understand the space that I'm in. I understand that if I have this relationship that I love, that there's also the potential that there might be some destruction with this person, with me, with us as a whole. You know what I'm saying? And I think that learning to forgive helps you to learn to change, and it helps you to accept that other people change. And I think that's what's so hard, because I think that when people hurt us, we want to see it in this like vacuum, and like we take away all the nuanced bits of it, that they were a kid that witnessed this, that they were a person who loved and got hurt, that they were the product of their circumstances. And it's not to absolve them, like I said, but it's just to understand that this is so not about you. And then how can we come back into yourself and connect to the ways that you get to control and heal this forward for yourself, So I feel like change is just the way of this world. It's our only constant. It's the only thing we can rely on. So the best thing we can do is get good at understanding the ebbs and the flows of this life. And forgiveness is part of that. For me, a lack of forgiveness feels like bitterness on my heart. And it is so hard for me to carry. It feels like when I am trying to rest, when I am trying to have a moment of peace to myself, when I am having quiet in my head, suddenly these like angering thoughts, they rise up. And I am somebody that is super prone to rumination. It is just part of my brain makeup. And I had a really hard conversation with somebody in my life not too long ago, and they said something to me like, it sounds like you walked away from that conversation hearing what you wanted to. And it was so hurtful. And like when me and my therapist were talking about it, she was like, those are fighting words. Like that is hurtful. And the amount of times that I have heard that phrase in my head, like the amount of times I'm in the shower, I'm in the car, I'm in the line at fucking Chipotle, and I am thinking about that. And I'm thinking about all these things that are adding into it and that are creating so much anger and hurt inside of myself. And it's like, I need to forgive. And this brings me to the ultimate question: how do you forgive somebody who isn't sorry, or who doesn't know what they did really hurt you? I've had people in my life too who have done things to me that if we both looked back on that, they wouldn't say it was the way that it was for me. And, for me, the way I reviewed it's like, this is what you did. This is how you affected me. But there are people who they don't see that how they hurt you is how they hurt you. Like they just don't see it. And it's like, how do you forgive someone who's not sorry? And you forgive someone who's not sorry because fuck them. Like, you forgive somebody who's not sorry because this forgiveness is for you. Of course, over time, we're going to get to a place of like, I wish them the best, I wish them success. But at the very beginning, like, forgiveness is for you so that you don't have to sit with the bitterness and the hurt on your heart any longer, and you can start to free that space for yourself. It's a sense of control. And I think that if you want to forgive somebody who is sorry and they want to stay in your life, then there has to be, for me, there has to be a initiated growth forward. Like, I need to know that this person recognized what they did, that they are taking accountability for it. They have given me a clear apology summarizing what has hurt me, and then they are dedicated to growing forward and checking in with me along that process. And I'm not just saying like, oh, I've just been so wrong throughout my whole life and I've never done anything wrong. I have to forgive myself for the ways that I've hurt people, for the ways that I've conducted myself in ways that were out of alignment with who I really am and how I want to be in the world. And I think self-forgiveness is one of the most important forms of forgiveness, because like everything else, if you don't know how to do it for yourself, it's so much harder to do with other people, right? So think about, like, it's easier to love others when you love yourself. It's easier to give compassion to others when you give compassion to yourself. It's easy to give empathy to others when you have empathy for yourself. And it's easier to forgive others when you can forgive yourself. I think that we see with some of our world leaders right now that they don't have a lot of love and compassion for themselves. And it's not like I'm sitting here advocating like this certain political figure needs to love himself more, because truthfully, I'd rather put both middle fingers up and be like, I hate this person. But it is also like, how much destruction must be going on inside for you to be causing so much destruction on the outside and so much destruction in other people's lives. And it's just like, you love others by loving yourself. You hurt others when you hurt yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are so deeply and intricately connected. And if somebody or something is going to do something unto others, they are likely going to do it unto you. And that's a separate conversation, but it just feels so relevant. So I feel like the component of forgiveness that's the hardest for me is learning or figuring out what's at the core of what I need to forgive. Because I can feel hurt about so many different things, and it feels so overwhelming. Like, I just can't put my finger on the exact thing where, like, what is at the very deep seated root part of this. And the reason why this episode has been so hard for me to record, and I don't know when it will get easier, is because I'm currently in a situation where I'm dealing with some really hard feelings towards a certain thing in my life. And I always on this podcast want to remain so respectful to the privacy of my personal life and to the people in it. So I never, ever, ever want to get too deep into something to make anybody feel like they're being like shaded or like subtweeted or anything like that. So I'm intentionally keeping it vague, but I have this situation that has really brought me a lot of pain. Honestly, more pain than I think this person has realized. And I think that is catapulting more pain, honestly. And I was talking to my mom about it yesterday, and she was saying that, like, you've had in the past such a synergy with this person. So them really not knowing how deeply they are hurting you is almost like a sense of abandonment in itself. It's almost like, how do you not know this is hurting me? And that almost hurts more than if you knew if you were hurting me, because it makes me feel like you don't know me, if that makes sense, right? Because you don't know that that would hurt me when you do know, you know? Anyway. So I'm laughing now, but definitely crying later. And I think for me, the core is feeling abandoned and it's feeling misled. And I feel so hurt by that. I feel so hurt at how much I prioritized this thing for it to like crumble in my hands. And it's like triggering to past circumstances that I have dealt with. And I think part of moving past this means I have to figure out what the core is. And it's so hard because it's like deep diving into my hurt, and I don't have the emotional capacity for it. Like, yes, I go to therapy, but it's like that's an hour once a week. And it feels like I could sit and talk about this for years or at least like a month. And I'm struggling to find the emotional capability of going deeper. And this brings me to another topic that is so, connected to this. But like, I was talking to my friend the other night, and she was telling me about somebody she had in her life who was her best friend for so many years. And they had a really tumultuous ending. And the friend really fucked up. Like, hearing the story, like, the friend was really fucked up and didn't initiate an apology or anything. And my friend had reached out once or twice afterwards, and, you know, to kind of no avail, kind of. And it's like, at what point do you preserve something special? And at what point do you have to let go and stop the emotional labor? And I think that's the question, is like, where's your emotional capacity? I think that for me, the way I was raised is like, you fight for something until you don't have any fight left. And back to this person that had left me that really fucked up long message and just like broke up with me over text, like we're in fucking middle school. Fast forward, it's New Year's Eve, and I'm hanging out with my loved ones, and we're all talking about things we're letting go to move into the new year. And we're going around, and my friends are saying, certain people in their lives and stuff like that. And it gets to my turn, and I'm like, me? N- uh I can't think of anything, and I can't think of anyone. And I simply will not be letting go, because at the time I wasn't realizing this, but I was certainly holding on to my version of the events because I wanted to hold on to whatever I could from that relationship. So I was like, I remember I just couldn't let go. Like, I remember like the way it came over to me, and I was like, yeah, I have nothing. Can't think of anything. My friends are sitting there like, okay, girl, are you good? And later that night, my dad was talking about special people. And he was saying that in our family, when we have something special, we hold on to it and we fight for it. And I remember when he said that, my best friend just turned over and looked at me, because she knew, like, this is why you're not letting go, because this was special for you. And it's like, at what point do you have to let go? And at what point do you stop the fight? And I don't have the answer. And I wish I did. And I wish I knew. But I think it's like you have to gauge your emotional wherewithal, your emotional capacity of like, how long until this is genuinely depleting all of your resources? How long until this is causing significantly more harm than it is good? And at what point is somebody not willing to be in it with you? Because if they're not willing to be in it with you, then you have to let it go. And it hurts me so much to say that, because there are so many times where I have fought the good fight, but they weren't in it with me and I was fighting alone, and it was too much. And that is not currently the situation I'm in. I know that the person that I'm struggling with right now cares deeply. I just think that they're also wrapped up in their own experience. And that happens to all of us, so I get it. And it's like, I know that this person cares, but I think what I'm so afraid of forgiving is because if I forgive, then we move on and then something else happens and I'm hurt and I'm scared of being hurt again. So it's like, if I don't forgive, then I don't get hurt because I don't let go, and I can hold on to this like false version of self-protection. What's so hard about recording this episode for me is that it is so damn relevant to where I'm at. And because it's so relevant to where I'm at, I just don't quite have the words or the language. And there are things that I'm certain about. Like, I'm certain that forgiveness is a sense of freedom from bitterness and resentment into an attachment and a hold onto your own narrative. And I think that that's important for seeing the big picture and seeing that somebody's behavior towards you is so much more about them than it is about you. And I am certain that forgiveness can free pain that we are feeling on our heart and is like suturing your own wounds, like my beautiful friend Max said. But it's also like, where I'm struggling with forgiveness is like it's damn, it's hard to forgive. And it's like, so if it's hard to forgive, it's like, do you just sit and be angry until you're not angry anymore? Do you do what my dad said and just like feel until there's nothing left to feel, until it weathers away? And it's like, how long does that take? And I think for me, I just want it now, and I want to feel that growth forward now, that like when I don't have it and I can't grasp it, it's painful. It's like a weird feeling for me. I don't enjoy it. And I fear that it's one of those things that heals with time. And I also feel that while we're talking about forgiveness as an inside job, I do believe that intrinsically, moving forward, like in the big picture, forgiveness does free an element of something in someone else when they are forgiven. And I think it's an altruistic act to forgive somebody that has hurt you, and to let them hear that forgiveness is so weighted, and it's worth its weight in gold, honestly. And I think that when you're finally there, then that's a beautiful thing, but I don't think that's a process to be rushed. And I guess that's the biggest thing I can say about forgiveness is like, it's just kind of something that you have to sit with until you're ready to acknowledge, to detach from your version of the events entirely and see that this is something so much bigger than you. And while what happened to you was hurtful and it was heartbreaking and it was gutting or betrayal or violating, and that is so real and so heavy. And if it wasn't you, then it would have just been somebody else. And what I mean by that is like, this person was moving through the world in this way. And unfortunately, you were part of the catalyst of that lesson and that thing for them. I'm really interested to know your thoughts on forgiveness. I'm really interested to know like, how do you feel like forgiveness is for you, and what do you do to forgive? And I think like for me also, I've been listening to like affirmation things that are like, I forgive, forgiveness is on my heart, like I release what no longer serves me, I'm releasing bitterness because I hate sitting with bitterness and rumination on my heart. And I do believe that forgiveness can free you from the shackles of bitterness and rumination and hatred, because I've certainly tiptoed into those spheres, I won't lie. And I don't wish for my spirit to reside there. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for being with me. Today was kind of an episode in the thick of it. Y'all are kind of getting like unexplored territory for me, and I think you can hear, I'm so interested to hear this back, where I'm a little confused and I'm a little dumbfounded and I'm a little like, I don't I don't know what to do. So I guess kind of like to summarize the most important parts of this is like I think that sometimes forgiveness can be mistaken as like letting somebody off the hook, but real forgiveness is about ending the story that's keeping you trapped. And you can't heal when you are constantly replaying a wound like it's proof of who you are. If you want to change and grow, then you have to accept that this circumstance has to change in your body. And I think part of that is like finding a way to anchor back into yourself. And I feel like that's like closing your eyes, feeling the tension in your chest, the part of you that tightens when you remember what hurt you, and inhaling through your nose for a couple counts, letting that breath find its tightness, and grabbing that tightness with your breath and exhaling slowly through your mouth as you release kind of like old gunk or like smoke or things like trapped inside of you. And I think part of forgiveness is like it's so cyclical in the same way that healing is, right? Like healing is not like a one and done, like one track forward linear path. Healing is something that like goes round and round and like you reach peaks and then there's a valley that you learn more and you get to a higher point with it. And it's the same with forgiveness. I don't think it's like, oh, I forgave and now I get to move forward and la di da di da. Like forgiveness is like today I forgave and then tomorrow, wow, that fucking still hurt. And you kind of do that continuously until, like I said earlier, you feel until there's nothing left to feel. And I feel like journaling, we know that. We know dancing, moving your body, working out, rage rooms, going to the sea, going into the elements of nature and feeling grass under your feet, feeling that we're all part of something bigger, I think helps you zoom out of the heaviness of this. I also feel like forgiveness is like a freedom of trapped energy. And it's almost like starting like a journal prompt, and maybe I'll post this on Instagram, like a set of journal prompts, or maybe on my Patreon. But like I forgive to free my energy, not to erase the truth. And the truth is, this person did hurt me, and this person isn't maybe doesn't even realize how bad that this has hurt me, or they don't care. And that is so deeply painful in itself. And also, I want to release the burden that I'm carrying on this for me. And I want to release the heavy energy so that new energy can come into that space. Forgiveness is an inside job because no one else can unclench your heart. You do it by breathing into the wound until it softens and you feel it until there's nothing else to feel. And you have to remember that freedom doesn't come from being understood, it comes from understanding yourself. And that is all I have to say about this for now. Thank you so much for being with me. Oh, goodness, I love you. I'm sorry that person hurt you. I'm sorry that thing caused you pain. We are going to work through this together, and you are so deeply loved, and you are so deeply held and cherished. And the more that you can free that energy in yourself, the more that beautiful energy can rise up and take its space. And you are knowing yourself deeper every single day because of it. I love you. Take care. Bye.